Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So it has been about a month since we've gone ahead and set this little reefer on, and in the last couple episodes, obviously we put the Zoas into the tank, but other than that, honestly, truthfully, I have not touched this tank at all. So as you can kind of see, we do have a little bit of an algae problem. We're going to go ahead and do our first water change on this tank and get this little guy cleaned up. So first thing you see, we have quite a good amount of algae. Now on the rocks themselves, the algae has turned, as you can see, kind of a greenish color, and that's pretty good. That's usually like the weaker type of coralline, I've noticed. And then at some point, the purpley stuff that we all know and love, that kind of takes over and completes the rock, and then the green stuff kind of dies off. So it's actually super awesome. Now, as you can see though, this tank, the glass is actually super dirty right now, though there are a lot of pods, which is super awesome. We will need to go ahead and clean this up a little bit with our magnet scraper. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, all this algae on the glass, you're not taking care of it, and, it's super dirty, it's bad for the tank. You do have to remember, though, that algae is a natural part of the aquarium, which a lot of people forget. A lot of people think, hey, there's algae on the glass, let me dose some chemicals and try to kill off all this algae. But this algae is actually really good if it's the right kind of algae and in the correct quantities. Now, in order of what we're going to go ahead and do with this tank today is, number one, we're going to go ahead and turn off the flow. Number two, we're going to give the tank actually a little bit of a feeding. And the reason I want to do that is a lot of times you do have to worry about nutrient export on these tanks because, there is nowhere for all the pee and poo-poo and whatnot to go. Because it is a closed environment, you do need some way of removing all those nutrients, and that's where the water change comes in. But since I am going to be doing a water change, we are going to go ahead and feed the tank, just to feed all these little zoas and the little mushrooms, and just give them a little bit more nutrition, since we're going to do a water change and remove that nutrition as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So first step, like I mentioned, we are going to stop the pump. We are going to feed the tank. Then, right before we feed the tank, we are going to scrape up the glass and then suck all the water out and then put the fresh water in. So let's get to it, and hopefully it'll be fun. While we wait for the water to finish mixing, heat up a little bit, we're going to go ahead and feed the tank. Our choice of food today is going to be Benepets, and also in here is a mix of reeforoids as well, so it's a little of both of what's considered the best fish food here in America. And yeah, we're going to get this little guy into one of these little beakers right here, and we're going to slowly feed our little mushrooms and our little zoas in this tank. Alright, so we have basically finished completing the feeding for our little corals here. And what we're going to go ahead and do next is just the cleaning on the tank. And to do that, we are going to be using my algae scraper, which is one of these guys right here, a flipper. I've collected quite a few of these throughout the years. I got like the super big one for this tank. I have this medium sized one from an old tank. I even have the super tiny one from like a Nano a couple dozen years ago. So you always keep these around because you could just change the blades out in these. But yeah, that's what we will be using to clean the glass. Alright, so now that we have the tank all clean, all we have to do is do the water change. You can see just all the algae little bits just floating in the water there. Now, some of them are going to be copepods, so we may, lose a little bit of the copepod population, but that should be okay. But in the long run, every time you do a water change, it's just going to help, Just take away all those old nutrients, put in some new ones. And that'll also help the coral grow, especially with new nutrients, which, these softer corals I think are going to need versus like calcium and alkalinity, which, sticks and LPS and those need, but those aren't going into this tank. So yeah, next up, we are going to go ahead and get our water over here, and we're going to get this guy a little pumped out. Alright, so all these sides are nice and clean. We've gone ahead and done our water change. Of course, it's going to be a little bit cloudy because I just poured a waterfall of water onto the rocks. So, all that little bit of dust is going to be kicked up. But yeah, now we have a little bit less nutrients in the tank as far as like old nutrients. We have, maybe a little bit of trace elements in there to help the little softies. And now the tank's going to be feeling a lot fresher. But we're going to go ahead and give this guy a little bit of time to clear up. And that'll be it for today's episode. So thank you guys as always for watching. Hopefully that was a little bit informative, a little bit interesting for you. Maybe not if you guys do water changes all the time. But with a very simple tank like this, you can definitely do it with just water changes. You don't have to do anything crazy or expensive, So yeah, thank you guys as always for watching. I'll see you on the next episode. I am going to bed. Peace.